welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Jeff Smith. Thank you for checking us out. We sincerely hope you gained something from your visit. If that is the case, we ask that you hit the like button and subscribe. For you regular viewers, we thank you for your continued support of the ministry. It means a great deal to us. Today, I want to discuss stress and the best response to it. As a result of us all possessing a carnal mind, the potential physical, mental, behavioral, or emotional response can be unpleasant. In addition, it often prevents the desired outcome. Regardless of the ill effects it produces and lousy outcomes it brings, it consistently and continuously rears its ugly head, distracting us from the one surefire way to appreciate peace and joy in the midst of the storm, and an outcome with our best interests at heart. I entitled the message with a question: do you really trust Him? With that, I'll get on with it. Sadly, stress appears to be part of the human condition. All of us experience it at various times throughout our lives. All of us experience it at varying degrees of intensity. Stress is our response to a stressor, which can come in the form of incidents, accidents, events, circumstances, and situations we all encounter on a regular basis. Examples could be something as simple as a busy workday to something of greater significance, producing more profound stress, such as a divorce, the death of a friend or relative, or loss of employment. Stressors come and go. They're part of life, and they can produce stress in multiple ways. I've heard it said that there are 4 ways in which stress manifests itself in a person. There is physical stress, mental stress, behavioral stress, emotional stress. Sadly, no one can deny having experiential knowledge of the manifestation of these 4 types of stress in their lives. The big question is, what do we do about it when we recognize it? I think most would agree it isn't necessarily so noticeable or disturbing until it reaches a certain point. A point that varies from one individual to the next. You know what I mean. Some seem calmer, more collected, or even keeled than others. Some roll with the punches that are the stressors we all encounter more effectively than others. Sadly, there are those who don't. What I'm going to share with you isn't rocket science. It's merely what I am currently observing in my own life, and I think it might be helpful to you. Please understand, what I will share isn't entirely new to me. Like I said, we've all encountered stresses and subsequently experienced stress. It's just that 2 things are more obvious to me now than ever before. It's really quite sad. I'm right around the corner from reaching 6 decades on Earth. I'm almost 60 years old, and it isn't until now that I recognized, first, how foolish my responses to stressors have been at times, and second, how much the carnal mind or the flesh loves to get involved, or just how much it attempts to control situations. I'm confident people who know me would say I'm an even-keeled kind of guy. I thank God for that. I'm not prone to anxiety or depression. Typically, I'm a pretty happy guy. I'm generally able to wrap my head around incidents, accidents, events, circumstances, and situations and arrive at a logical conclusion to bring about resolve. Generally, I do so in such a way that leaves me relatively unscathed. Again, I thank God for that. I don't take it lightly. I don't take it for granted. It seems God created me to be very introspective. Daily, I pay close attention to how I am feeling emotionally and otherwise. Honestly, when necessary, I take an inventory of where I am. I do that internal check more frequently than daily. In all humility, I feel I have been effective at problem solving and thereby reducing stress in my life. It's not that I do so void of divine intervention. I talk to God all the time. I regularly seek His direction. However, I believe He made me with critical thinking skills and an ability to step back, take a quick look, and arrive at logical conclusions. Man, that sounds arrogant. I really don't mean it that way. I realize I'm not that unique. There are plenty of people in the world who function the same way. But is that what God really wants us to do all the time? Or is His desire for us to rely on Him more than we do? Please don't misunderstand me. God created us with minds that are able to file and categorize incidents, accidents, events, circumstances, and situations for our recollection. As a result, we can quickly recall what we did when we encountered the same issue in the past. We just replicate or tweak what we did to achieve a desirable outcome. I certainly believe God expects us to make use of our minds when He graciously and lovingly gave us such an incredible tool for day-to-day living. What I am suggesting is that there is a balance, or there needs to be one. I suppose I'm speaking more specifically to the significant stressors in our lives rather than getting a flat tire or experiencing a busy day. Not that He doesn't wish to be involved in those issues. It's the significant stressors that reveal areas for improvement, at least in my life. It's the significant stressors that can leave us feeling lost, confused, helpless, and hopeless. Have you ever been there? Have you ever encountered something that left you perplexed and at a complete loss? Have you ever been in a situation for which you didn't have the answers? There were too many unknown variables? Have you ever been in a situation where your usual problem-solving skills were rendered ineffective because too much was out of your control? That's an unpleasant place to find yourself. It's during those times that stress manifests itself physically, mentally, behaviorally, or emotionally. Maybe it manifests itself in more than one or two of those ways. Now, without divulging the details, because I'm not at liberty to do so, currently I am in the midst of something like that. I am in the midst of a storm, so to speak. I've taken the usual approach. I've attempted to wrap my head around all the circumstances involved, and I've devised one or more seemingly logical strategies or solutions. Unfortunately, I can't implement them because there are others in the mix who are resistant. They're adamant about not doing anything consistent with my desires. In fact, they're adamantly and vehemently opposed to anything I might suggest. They have what they believe to be the truth of the matter, and it stands in stark contrast to reality. The other day, I was thinking about the situation because I've been thinking about it a lot. As usual, I was speaking with the Lord. What came to me was something I already knew. This is the part that isn't rocket science. It came to me that the consumption of my thoughts and expenditure of a considerable amount of energy regarding something that is completely out of my control is like what Solomon referred to as a chasing after the wind. I'm pursuing futility. I don't know the outcome, and it seems I can't control it. It's futile for me to try to figure it out. I don't possess foresight or foreknowledge. From a carnal perspective, or when viewing it solely from the perspective of the carnal mind, rather than the mind of Christ, that can create all kinds of discomfort and stress. Yet, according to a carnal way of thinking, we want to function independent of God. We want to be self-reliant and self-dependent. Why was I trying to put all the pieces together when I don't have all the pieces? Why was I strategizing with so many variables that are out of my control? Why wasn't I turning everything over to God? I don't know about you, but I struggle with turning everything over to God. In many cases, it's because the carnal nature is driven and motivated to function independent of God, like I said. In some cases, it's because I feel like the Lord has done so much for me. I feel bad about putting everything on Him. After all, He's listening to a whole bunch of people at any given moment in time. While in prayer, I ask myself, do you really trust the Lord? It didn't take long to arrive at an answer. I believe the Lord has my best interests, our best interests, at heart. I believe in the inerrant, infallible Word of God. Jeremiah 29:11 reads, "For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for well-being and not for calamity, in order to give you a future and a hope." Jesus is quoted saying in John 10:10, "The thief comes only to steal, slaughter, and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly." I don't believe living life abundantly is defined as living a life comprised of a long chain of calamitous, unresolved events. Trouble will come, but Jesus will provide peace and joy amid the storm. In addition, He will ensure a desirable outcome, an outcome that is best for us, best for our future growth and development. That is precisely what the Apostle Paul wrote in Romans 8:28, which reads, "And we know that for those who love God, that is, for those who are called according to His purpose, all things are working together for good." As humans, we want things now and in accordance with our plans. God doesn't function according to our clocks or schedules. He chooses the precise moment when the implementation of His plan is rendered most effective. And the Lord doesn't necessarily do things in the manner or according to the strategies we have devised and desire. But rest assured, He has our best interests, and all things will work out for our good, whatever that looks like. I am 100% convinced of those two facts. I trust the Lord implicitly. So why wasn't I turning the matter over to Him completely? And why haven't I done so many times in my past? The answer to that question and the explanation for our faults, failures, shortcomings, and areas of or opportunities for improvement are based on one major player, the carnal mind or carnal nature. Regrettably, that has been my foolish response to stressors. I've allowed the carnal mind or my flesh to drive the bus rather than turning everything over to the Lord and maintaining the mind of Christ. I've recognized the carnal mind's involvement in my life and in the lives of all past and present global inhabitants. But I have to tell you, I didn't recognize just how much or just how often the carnal mind rises up in an attempt to gain control until the current situation in which I find myself. Daily, I ask the Lord to make me a better man. In response, it seems He is making it more obvious to me just how much the carnal mind is there to influence us if we allow it. In order to be the kind of person the Lord desires for us, in order for us to achieve our full potential in Him, we must remain mindful of when it rises up and when we need to bring every thought derived from it into captivity by the power of the Spirit of God. We must allow the mind of Christ to reign supreme. I haven't always done it, but I've resolved to turn this situation completely over to God. However, like I said, the carnal mind, the carnal nature, the flesh, desires to be self-reliant and self-dependent. It desires to function independent of God. It's incessant in its attempts at regaining control of the situation that it has no power to resolve. It's incessant at attempting to get involved. And when I allow it to do so, it evokes negative manifestations of stress in the 4 areas previously mentioned. Multiple times a day, I recognize the carnal mind at work, conjuring up thoughts about the situation. I promptly recognize the tendency in my flesh to make an attempt at fixing the situation, or to strategize about the situation, or to contemplate the numerous possible outcomes regarding the situation. The pursuit of futility, removing God from the equation, is vanity. It's foolishness. It's a chasing after the wind. But the flesh keeps on coming, and sometimes we listen. I don't know the answers or the outcome according to the strategies I have devised. Why wouldn't I turn everything over to the one who is omniscient, the one who knows me inside and out, and just so happens to know everything? Why wouldn't I turn it over to the one who has foresight and foreknowledge, rather than attempting to function on my own when the most and best I have to go on is hindsight? It doesn't make any sense at all. The Lord knows me better than I know myself. He knew me before I was conceived. 1 John 3:20 tells us that He knows everything. Psalm 147:5 tells us, "Our Lord is great, and His power is great. There is no limit to His understanding." There are other scriptures that speak to the Lord's omniscience, but I'll just cite one more. Hebrews 4:13 tells us, "No creature can hide from God. Everything is uncovered and exposed for Him to see. We must answer to Him." I am convinced the Lord has my best interests at heart. I am convinced His thoughts are higher than my thoughts, and His ways are higher than my ways. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt all things will work out for my good when He is involved. With all that in mind, why don't I simply relinquish hold on incidents, accidents, events, circumstances, and situations that I encounter on the road of life, instead of allowing stress to be infused into the situation, making it far worse? I'm confident I'm not alone in this. That said, why don't you? It seems the more significant the stressor, the less likely we are to turn it over to God. Maybe we get concerned because He doesn't respond as quickly as we would like. Maybe we get concerned because we don't witness Him responding to the situation in a manner consistent with the strategies we devised. Maybe we get concerned because He doesn't provide the outcome we envisioned for ourselves. That all appears to give rise to questions about His sovereignty and omniscience in that situation and when the next stressor presents itself. That all appears to promote anger and frustration, which leads to a vicious cycle of carnal thinking. We attempt to turn it over to God. He doesn't act in accordance with our timing or like we would, and we begin to doubt, to get angry and frustrated, calling the carnal mind or our flesh into the mix all over again. Once again, we find ourselves trying to handle it and reaping stress rather than peace and joy. It seems a probability exists that the more significant the stressor and the less we know about all the variables, the less likely we are to trust Him implicitly. It also seems the probability exists that in those situations, the more likely we are to experience the carnal desire to offer God some assistance. We just can't help but get involved. The need to demonstrate blind trust or blind faith is more than our carnal mind can bear. Regardless, we are called to a different approach. We are called to have blind trust or blind faith in the Lord. After all, there is plenty of evidence in his behavior to prove he's worthy of it. Outside of the Bible and what I've witnessed in the lives of those with whom I've come in contact, other Christians, there are countless examples of divine favor and divine providence in my life. Proverbs 3:5-6 reads, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Never rely on what you think you know. Remember the Lord in everything you do, and he will show you the right way." Trusting in the Lord with all your heart means we trust him implicitly. It means we have blind trust or blind faith in him. In other words, regardless of how much we know about a given situation or how much we don't know, doesn't matter. We must trust he will take care of us. We must trust in his divine providence for our lives, regardless of the magnitude of the storm in which we find ourselves. As regards my current situation, I do not know which direction to go. There are several options that can result in a variety of outcomes. I don't know what's best for me. I feel like I'm completely blind in this one, and the potential outcomes will profoundly impact my life moving forward. That's not hyperbole. I want to do right by the Lord. I want to provide a godly example to those involved. I don't want my carnal nature to be my guide, or no doubt I will do or say something I will regret later. I can't stress to you enough the fact that I am completely blind in this. Nonetheless, I have blind trust in him, and I'm learning to silence the thoughts derived from my carnal mind. When I do so, by the power of his Spirit, I feel consistent peace and joy. We can't rely on ourselves, our flesh, our carnal mind, because it only thinks it knows. Why not go to the one who knows everything and the one who will ensure the best outcome for us? Man, we complicate this so much. We trust him or we don't. I do. I'm learning to trust him more. If he has allowed this to happen for that purpose, it will be well worth it in the end. He asks that we remember him. We acknowledge him in every incident, accident, event, circumstance, and situation. He asks that we acknowledge and submit to his sovereignty, understanding, knowledge, and wisdom. Adam Clarke, in his Bible commentary, had this to say about verse 6. Begin, continue, and end every work, purpose, and device with God. Earnestly pray for his direction at the commencement. Look for his continual support in the progress. And so begin and continue that all may terminate in his glory. And then it will certainly be to thy good, for we never honor God without serving ourselves. Self-sufficiency and self-dependence have been the ruin of mankind ever since the fall of Adam. The grand sin of the human race is their continual endeavor to live independently of God, i.e., to be without God in the world. True religion consists in considering God the fountain of all good and expecting all good from him. We have to expect it. We have to believe it. We have to trust him regardless of our own visual acuity or lack thereof in every situation. That's blind trust. Honestly, I believe the Lord allows situations just like I've described and just like I'm currently in to increase our trust, confidence, and faith in him if we allow it. We are required to go into some situations blindly. We aren't privy to the divine plan. We aren't privy to the divine strategies. We aren't privy to the divine outcome. And on our own, according to our carnal thinking, we don't have squat. The carnal mind keeps going at it, attempting to find the solution. It won't. it will just provide for more stress. We have to stop allowing it to influence our thinking. We're simply called to trust in the Lord and to submit to the mind of Christ. I know He has my back. If you're a Christian, I know He has your back. Do you really trust Him? Or is that just church jargon? That's a serious question to consider. I've been required to take a serious look at it. I found that I do, but occasionally I still continue to give in to the fleshly desire to take control of the situation. Even while in preparation for this message, the situation kept popping up. My usual response is to think it through. I'm beginning to turn it over to the Lord with greater frequency and regularity. In response, I notice I'm not hearing the carnal mind as much. Man, this has been a challenge my entire life. I have always struggled with turning things over to God. I have appreciated some success at figuring things out. That's been my go-to MO. I have to say, this approach works a whole lot better once you get over the discomfort and the inaccurate conclusion that you need to get involved. The Lord is a loving God who maintains unfathomable and incomprehensible love and concern for His children. Let Him handle it. He's a whole lot brighter, and His shoulders are a whole lot broader. God bless you, and have a great week. Thank you for joining us on For the Sake of the Call. We sincerely hope and pray this and every episode is a blessing to you. At the very least, we hope and pray you find it thought-provoking. We consider it an honor to serve our Lord by serving you. If you found something of value with this episode, we ask that you comment, hit the like button, and subscribe. We also ask that you click the notification button so you can be informed of upcoming episodes. If you would like to contact us, please see the link in the description below. May God richly bless you, and may your relationship with Him grow each and every day.